My next guest is an analyst, reporter, and now we can say regular commentator for the UFC. Of course, she's in Vegas right now, going to be calling the card this Saturday. It is Laura Sanko back here on the program. Laura, how are you?
I'm doing great, James. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of different jobs, but I'm no longer a reporter. We can scratch that one off. We're done
Okay.
with that.
Well, you
Yeah,
would
I've
still
graduated.
technically, I mean, you had done reporting. I guess, it just adds more to the resume, but I guess it won't all fit in your Twitter bio, right? So there we
Exactly.
go. And by the way, I got to mention, you just got off a plane. You're doing this right away. Travel was delayed a bit, but looked like you made it okay.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a winter storm roll through the Midwest, but thank goodness the direct flight helps a lot. So we were super late taking off, but I made it here, and it's a good flight if it lands. So
Yes.
we're onward and upward from here.
So we hear with fighters about UFC jitters when they get that, call up to the UFC and, sometimes they perform well or they don't. You knocked your commentary debut out of the park. But saying that, this is your second card that you'll be commentating on. Does this feel like the real one now that you got the whole jitters and all that out of the way? Is it kind of comparable?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was necessarily nervous last time because obviously the Apex is so familiar with me. I've called, gosh, 100 and some fights there now. Not cards, fights, but it was more so that there was just so much going on with it. I had a camera crew following me around all week and like lots of extra media. So it was more overwhelming because of the extra stuff. I wasn't necessarily nervous about doing the job. I don't know. I give myself a B plus on that one. It's gonna be better from here moving on because I don't need all the fuss. I don't need all the extra stuff. I just want to go in there and do my job. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to call this one this weekend. I wasn't supposed to do another one until I think it was going to be like late March, if I
Okay.
remember right. But there were some schedule changes. So my boss called me. He's like, "Hey, you ready to go again?" I was like, "Sure, let's do it. Let's do it."
And at a proper time, right? Because the last time, obviously, the card was later because of the whole switch up
Yeah.
with going there. So that's got to be nice, right? You're kind of on a regular sleep schedule.
Yeah, and I'm from Central Time, so that was really, and I'm an old lady, so that was really late for me, really late. Like I had to really get myself going for that one. I remember Michael looked over at me at one point. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we have six fights left." I was like,
Yeah,
"I know,"
it
but
adds
yeah,
up.
so I'm very excited to not be doing it in the middle of the night for sure.
Do you have any idea of how many more events you'll be doing, or is it sort of a case by case basis? They'll sort of let you know, give you a bit of notice.
It's roughly case by case. We usually know a few months ahead of time, so I've got a couple more scheduled out. I'm not going to be every month, but I should get, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 shows this year if I'm guessing right. But that may change a little bit too, because during Contender Series, it's really hard for me to call all the contender fights and do a fight night on top of it. That would just be too much prep work, if I'm being honest. I could probably pull it off, but so during that stretch, I'm guessing I won't call any fight nights. I haven't really talked to my boss about that yet, but so we'll see. But yeah, I've got a few more on the schedule.
Everyone loved the debut. Even leading into it, there was a lot of great feedback. I saw a lot of positivity on social media, including Billie Jean King. How cool was that hearing from her?
That was crazy, man. That was really crazy. I legitimately had to like look at that tweet 3 or 4 times. I
Check the
had to click.
verification check just in
Yeah,
case it
I
wasn't it.
did.
Yeah.
And I clicked on the profile because I was like, surely this is some sort of Billie Jean King sweater, or like there's almost funny there's funny accounts. But no, it was the queen herself, the queen of breaking glass ceilings in women's sports, and that was crazy special. And Connor chimed in and had nice things to say, and that was really cool too. So yeah, it was a really big moment, fulfilling. But like I said, I'm just excited to get to work and not have this be a so much of a headline anymore. And I hope it's not a headline in the future, because I hope it's just like a not even me, women in general, a regular thing. It's not something we're talking about anymore. So
And of course, we all remember you starting in Invicta. We have an Invicta vet in the main event this Saturday,
yeah.
someone I'm sure you're very familiar with Erin Blanchfield, taking on Jessica Andrade, was supposed to be Talia Santos. What are your thoughts on this fight? Because I think sort of the narrative going in, is great and as talented as Erin has been, this is a pretty big step up going from Molly McCann to now Jessica Andrade. Just your thoughts on Saturday's headliner.
Yeah, there's no doubt that this is a big step up for her. I mean, that's just the truth of it on its face. But we've seen people rise to the occasion before. I'm certainly not counting Erin out in this fight whatsoever. She's a very talented woman. We've seen that time and time again. I think even the loss that she has on her record, split decision Tracy Cortez back in Invicta, it's a fight that I think a lot of people felt she actually did win, so could easily be undefeated at this point. And while it is a big step up in competition, I think we don't always fully know where someone is until they have this type of litmus test. She could be even better than we realize, or she could still have some growing to do. And we're going to find out a lot on Saturday, because if there ever is a test in the women's flyweight division, it's Jessica Andrade.
Yeah, it certainly is. And do you sort of buy into the theory of the longer this fight goes, maybe that helps Erin a bit? I know Erin doesn't have the 5-round experience, but Jessica has been finishing a lot of her opponents early. Do you see that as maybe one way that Erin could maybe go out there and get it done?
I might have before the Lauren Murphy fight, to be honest with you. I think Jessica proved a lot. Not that she really had anything left to prove, but, there's the narrative that if you're a big puncher and an early finisher, you just sort of assume like, oh, well, then automatically the shorter fight favors that fighter. And I think she went out and proved that no matter how many hard punches she has to throw over and over and over again at the pace of that fight, I mean, her gas held up, her power held up. Lauren Murphy is just, tough as a boot. So I do think, I don't know that it really favors either fighter significantly, even though you would think normally that the grappler might have a little bit of an advantage. I don't know that it favors either. In fact, I might even go so far as to say it might favor Jessica just because of the sheer amount of 5-round experience that she has. But we'll see. Erin's always in amazing shape and has never had cardio issues. So.
Yeah, great point. Let's rewind to last weekend. People are still talking about it. This Islam Makhachev, Alex Volkanovski main event. It really delivered, for the lightweight title fight. Just your initial reaction to the fight after watching it, because I think people saw one of the best fights, I think, of all time.
It was one of the most technical MMA fights I've ever seen, and I loved that about it. It wasn't a slobber knocker, but it didn't need to be a slobber knocker, because anybody who has a certain level of appreciation for the nuance of every aspect of the sport could watch that fight and just be giddy about it. I mean, from the striking to the grappling to all of the in-between phases, it was high level, high stakes chess at every single moment. And it delivered. It really delivered. It was an incredible fight.
When it went to the scorecards and they read the decision going for Islam, did you agree with the scorecard? Because I think some people felt like it could have gone both ways, right?
Yeah, I did actually agree with it. Listen, there's definitely a case that could be made for Alex winning the fight. I think it comes down to, I can't remember if it's around 3 or 2. I need to go back and watch it.
It was 3. Yeah, I think 3 and 5 are the most decisive for Volkanovski, and then I think 1, 2, and 4 were how people scored it for Islam.
Yes, exactly. And so I think, particularly, and I'm definitely someone who has beat this drum quite a bit. We talk about how control time really doesn't score. And it doesn't, but people need to keep in mind that there are different types of control. There's control for the sake of control, which doesn't score very much. And then there's control, which we almost need to call it something else. We need to call it effective grappling, where you've advanced to a more dominant position, a back take position, and you are threatening with submissions. And I know sometimes people don't see those face cranks as potential submission threats, but they absolutely are. It can be a submission in and of itself, or it can be the beginning of setting up a rear naked choke. So when he had Volk's back, although there wasn't a ton of damage being done, that was very much an effective grappling scenario in my mind. So, like I said, those chess matches become really difficult to score. And that's why we had some of the best judges, in my opinion, in the game on that card. And I think that they made the right call, but I don't argue with the dissenting judge either. And that's the thing I'll say time and time again. Most of the time when we start having these discussions about was it scored correctly, it's because it was such a close fight that there's not really a black and white, you're wrong, he's right type of scenario. You really could make a valid and strong case for either fighter winning.
Yeah, very well said. Well, Islam won the fight. He did not take the top ranking on the pound for pound list. I know this is so subjective in a lot of different ways as far as how you go about it, but just your reaction to Volkanovski still remaining on top on the pound for pound list.
It's funny because my initial reaction was that Islam should get that spot because, number one or number 2 beating number 1, you get the number 1 spot. But in having some sort of theoretical discussions and arguments with people after the fact, I really do understand why it may have stayed that way. Because, when you've got someone who's got the cards stacked against them and they go out and they perform neck and neck. And to our point earlier, you could have scored the fight for Volkanovski and not been incorrect in doing so. So is that enough for him to have his number 1 status stripped? given his resume, given his history of being at that level and being dominant at that level over time. I think that's really the only knock against Islam is that, yeah, he beat, the number one guy. He's right there, but he doesn't have a history of it yet. Do I think he's going to? Yes, I absolutely do. I really think he's going to be at the top for a very long time. But I don't know. To answer your question, I felt like he should have gotten number one in the moment, but I guess I'm not up in arms about him not having it either, because I understand why. Alex was amazing. Alex was amazing in that fight, so yeah. I get that too.
Yeah, I see both sides of it. I know they build it as the winner would be the number one, so I favor it from that side, and also the fact that Islam won. But then I also look at the other side. You've got Volkanovski, who's got so many quality wins. Max Holloway 3 times, Jose Aldo, Brian Ortega. So, strength of schedule against, what they build it as, it's kind of a tough thing to do. So there's no correct answer here. Last question sort of on the Islam thing. What do you think should be next, just as a fan? There's talk of Beneil Dariush and Oliveira fighting. The winner gets Islam. There is Beneil should just get the shot as is, right? They were supposed to fight before. There is Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. The winner of that should fight Islam. And then obviously last one is the rematch. So what as a fan would you like to see next for Islam?
I'm just excited to see him fight. And I know that that's a very fence-righty answer.
It's a Canadian answer. I'll take it, though. I'm Canadian.
No, so. It's the truth. I wouldn't be mad at a rematch. I think initially my gut reaction says that the winner of Oliveira Dariush should get the next shot. Just because I think that rematch is going to be there. I think Alex can go back and fight Yair. And then you can do the rematch after that. It doesn't have to be immediate. So I guess that's why I probably lean toward Charles or Dariush. I like the Charles rematch. I really do. I think that having been in there with him and having now seen a lot more footage of what he offers on the feet, Charles would be a lot more prepared, would probably approach that fight a little bit differently. I think Beneil presents a new set of problems. So I love that we've got someone new on top, because that means we've got a lot of fresh matchups and fun things to talk about.
And I mentioned McGregor Chandler there. They are going to be fighting. We don't have a date booked. I don't even know if we have the weight class confirmed yet, but they are going to be coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. I'm excited about this. I think these are two really strong coaches just from that perspective alone. What were your initial thoughts on them being named as coaches?
I was blown away. I really, I'm excited for it. I was surprised, I think, primarily by Conor wanting to do that. I think he's at such a status now that, it kind of just seems like he could come in and call his shot any way he wanted to. But I love this from him. I love that he wants to kind of get back in touch with his roots, it seems like, a little bit. And also at the same time, he's aware of the importance of building back his story, building back who he is as a person, not just what we read about him in the headlines, right? Because the headlines on people don't always tell the full story of who they are in their life and what's important to them, really. And I think having a few months of getting to watch him on the show and operate with the fighters, we're going to get to know Conor again, the real Conor as he is today versus the Conor that coached on Tough several years ago. So I'm excited for that. And I think that's going to make the fight with Chandler even more exciting when it comes up.
And what do you think about the fight? The style matchup's interesting, right? We've got Chandler and him both having really, really good striking, but Chandler's also got that wrestling. He doesn't use it all the time, but that could be an interesting factor in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's going to be an interesting factor, but I think that it's a style match. It's a matchup that, depending on how you look at it, can favor either guy, really. I mean, Chandler's not unlike Mendez, right? In terms of explosive striking, explosive wrestling, and Conor likes to fight guys who are going to come to him, just guys he doesn't have to go find, and guys who don't necessarily have that. It's not that Chandler's wrestling isn't oppressive, but it's not oppressive in the same way that Khabib's or Islam's is. So I think it's an exciting matchup because it's a fight that Conor can win. It's also a fight that Chandler can win. Yeah.
And not only are we getting Conor McGregor back this year, we're going to get John Jones back. That's coming up in a few weeks. He's taking on Ciryl Gane. Just your thoughts on the fact that this is now for the vacant title, and this is all new. And Jones is coming back after 3 years, and he's fighting a guy in Ciryl Gane who, a couple fights ago, lost to Francis Ngannou because of wrestling to a certain degree. So just your thoughts on the matchup.
That's an incredibly exciting matchup. I think, technically speaking, now I really wanted to see the Ngannou fight, but that's not going to happen. So technically speaking, this is the most exciting fight that could be made. The reality is we really don't know what skill set John's going to bring to the table at heavyweight. We think we know, and we can make some assumptions based on the way that he operated for so long at light heavyweight, but a lot of time has passed. A lot of weight has been put on. It'll be fascinating to see if he has the exact same characteristics at heavyweight, or if he's got to alter his style a little bit to deal with the bigger weight. But the reality is, even at light heavyweight, John wasn't a guy who was like stringing together crazy long combinations and blitzing on people. He's a surgeon. He will stay at that incredibly long distance he has and just pick guys apart. So in some ways that favors being able to carry that style into a heavyweight frame. So I think it's going to be a real interesting challenge for Ciryl. I'm sure Cyryl's been working on his wrestling defense, and he's going to need to, for sure.
And we also have another title fight on that card, Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso. What's interesting about this fight, aside from the fact that Alexa Grasso finally getting that title shot, it's been a while, right, that we've been talking about her being a contender and getting that belt, but Valentina's coming off a fight that, in some people's eyes, was not a win in her last fight. It was a very tough matchup against Talia Santos. Just your thoughts on that title fight as Valentina looks to extend her winning streak.
I mean, I think anytime Valentina's fighting, I'm going to want to watch. But I do think that Alexa Grasso is incredibly hungry. She's got phenomenal boxing. She's really developed some great grappling, in both offensive and defensive, in the past couple of years. I mean, originally you would have said that she was much more of a pure boxer in some ways, but she's really put it all together. And I do think that it's not so much that you're going to follow the exact game plan that Taila Santos did, but just planting that idea of and Jennifer Maia. Valentina has moments where she looks human. And when you have those champions who are so dominant, just having those moments be there and be part of reality, I think mentally is more important than anything for these fighters who are coming up and challenging. And I'm super high on women's flyweight right now. I think it's a really exciting division. We've got Casey O'Neill coming back. There's a lot of really interesting
Tatiana Suarez.
Yes, exactly. And I hope she stays there. That's just my personal thought. I hope she stays there.
I hope she's healthy. That's the big thing too, right?
Yeah.
Is that because where she left off at strawweight was very intriguing to see what would have happened, right? So.
Exactly. That's the truth. And I don't even care which division she is. I'm just excited to have her back. But that's going to be a good one. And yeah, we've got a lot to look forward to in both those divisions for sure.
And then the other title fight we have coming up, Leon Edwards defending his title against Kamaru Usman in their trilogy fight. What do you make of this fight? Because there's, again, while some people say, oh, it was lucky or whatever, you hear the narrative from fans sort of going into from that first fight, but then you also got to look at the fact that Usman just got knocked out as well. How's he going to respond to that?
Yeah, I don't think you can ever call someone lucky for something like that. Although, you watch fight and obviously Kamaru was doing very well. Anytime someone has done that to you, though, and you have that GoPro footage in your head of what that looked like, that can play in your mind. Kamaru Usman's a very mentally strong individual, so I don't know that it's going to really mess with him, but it's there. That's all I'll say about it. It's there. And it's there for Leon as well. Leon's got the same GoPro footage, knowing that he can take this guy out, even if he's down on the cards. So I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a closer fight, actually, than the last one, just given the confidence that's going to give Leon. So, yeah, maybe we'll see what happens at welterweight. Maybe things get shaken up again.
And then last title fight we got coming up, Israel Adesanya taking on the new champ, Alex Pereira. Just your thoughts on that. Similar situation to the Leon fight where I think people would maybe say that Izzy was up on the scorecards and then he ended up getting knocked out.
I love this. I love it because I love the fact that Izzy is just... I honestly don't even think he cares that much about, he cares about the belt, but I think this goes so far beyond that. Mm-hmm. To him, this is just, I know I can beat this guy and I just have to do it. And that competitor inside of him isn't going to sleep well at night until he has proven what he knows is true in his head. We're going to find out if Alex, just for some whatever reason, is his kryptonite. And I think we'll find out pretty early in the fight this time. I think we're going to find out early. But, you look at the city kickboxing guys, they are masters at game planning. So I imagine having this more recent, specific to MMA experience, they're going to come in with an even better plan than last time.
When we did interviews years ago, the goal was always to be a commentator in the UFC. You're now that. Is the next goal to get on a pay-per-view? What are your goals now? Because you got to keep raising the bar, right?
For sure. I mean, eventually, but really my goal now is just to be really good at what I'm doing right now. I want to establish myself here, and I want to do well for the fan base. I want to do well for the fighters and be proficient at telling their story. And that's really all I'm thinking about right now. Of course, one day that'd be great, but I've got a lot of work to do between now and then. So we'll see.
Did you get to enjoy Valentine's Day, or was there too much going on with everything, leading into this weekend?
Yeah, way too much going on. Way too much going on. But I'll celebrate it some other time.
There you go. Every day should be Valentine's Day. That's what they say anyhow. Laura, thanks so much for doing this. Always appreciate it. I let people know where they can, obviously they know where they can find you on social media. I don't think there's too many Laura Sankos out there, but the YouTube channel, great job on that. You've been killing it on there. Just let people know where they can find that, and anything else you want to plug. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, YouTube channel is one-on-one. Got some demos on there. I do fight breakdowns. And then as always, at Laura_Sanko on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, I love interacting with people. So feel free to shoot me a message.